The first time I saw her cry, 3 people died before the tears even touched the floor. No one was supposed to witness it, especially not me. And yet, somehow, I was the only one left alive. I wasn't supposed to be in that corridor. That's the part that still keeps me awake, because everything that followed, every breath, every heartbeat, every moment with her, it all started with a mistake. A wrong turn, a door I shouldn't have opened, on a world that didn't forgive mistakes. They called it the Silent Empire, not because it was peaceful, but because no one dared speak when she was near. The queen, no one used her name, not soldiers, not nobles. Not even the creatures who commanded entire fleets across galaxies, just her. And when they said it, their voices dropped, eyes lowered, like even the air itself was listening. I had been on that world for less than 2 weeks. Long enough to understand one thing clearly. Humans didn't belong there, we weren't equals. We weren't guests, we were useful until I was assigned to maintenance. Low-level systems, energy conduits, structural diagnostics, jobs that kept me invisible. That was the goal, stay unseen, stay alive, and for a while it worked, until the alarm started. A low, pulsing hum echoed through the corridor walls, vibrating under my boots. The lights dimmed to a deep crimson, and every instinct I had screamed at me to stop moving, because in that place, alarms didn't mean evacuation. They meant something far worse. I should have turned back, everyone else did. Alien guards moved quickly past me, their armor shifting like liquid metal, their glowing eyes fixed straight ahead. None of them spoke, none of them looked at me. That was the second warning. The first was the silence. The second was the fear, but I kept going. I don't know why, maybe curiosity, maybe stupidity, or maybe something in me had already decided that surviving wasn't enough anymore. The corridor ahead split into 3 paths. I hesitated for half a second, then chose the left. That's when everything changed. The further I went, the quieter it became. The alarms faded behind me, replaced by something heavier. Not sound, pressure, like the air itself had weight. The walls here were different, darker, smoother, almost organic. They pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat you could see instead of hear. I slowed my steps. Every part of me was telling me to turn around, but I didn't, because at the end of the corridor there was a door, not like the others, taller, wider, black as space, and slightly open. That was wrong. In this place, nothing important was ever left unguarded, nothing powerful was ever left exposed, and yet, there it was, waiting. I reached it before I could stop myself, pushed it open just enough to see inside. And that's when I realized where I was, the Queen's chamber. I should have died the moment I stepped in. I know that now, because no one enters her chamber uninvited, no one leaves it alive, but at that moment I wasn't thinking about rules. Or survival or consequences, because she was there and she wasn't what I expected. She stood at the center of the room, facing away from me, tall, still, wrapped in a long, flowing gown that seemed to absorb the light around it. Her hair fell down her back like liquid shadow, unmoving despite the faint current in the air. The room itself was massive but almost empty. No guards, no attendants, no weapons, just her, and silence. A silence so deep it felt fragile, like if I breathed too loudly it would shatter. I took a step back, slowly, carefully, hoping I could leave without her noticing. That was my third mistake. You should not be here. Her voice didn't echo. It didn't rise, it didn't need to, it just existed, and somehow it filled the entire room. I froze, my heart slammed against my ribs, loud enough I was sure she could hear it. I didn't know, I started, but the words died in my throat because she turned, and when I saw her face, everything inside me went quiet. She didn't look monstrous, she didn't look terrifying, she looked impossible. Her skin was pale, almost luminous, like it held light beneath it. Her features were sharp, perfect in a way that didn't feel natural, and her eyes. They were completely black, not dark, not shadowed, empty. Like staring into something that had no end. She took a single step toward me, the air shifted, heavier, colder. I said, she repeated softly, you should not be here. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't even breathe properly. Because every instinct in my body was screaming the same thing. This is the moment you die. I got lost, I managed to say, pathetic, useless, but it was all I had. Her gaze didn't change, didn't soften, didn't react at all. And yet, she stopped moving, a few feet away from me, close enough that I could see the faint shimmer in her skin, the almost imperceptible rise and fall of her chest, close enough to feel the cold radiating from her. You are human, she said, not a question, a statement. Yes. Silence, a long, suffocating silence. I waited for the order, the guards, the pain, the end, but none of it came. Instead, she did something no one had ever described. She hesitated. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but it was there. A fraction of a second where her gaze shifted like she was thinking, confused. That didn't make sense. Beings like her didn't hesitate, they didn't question, they didn't feel. That's what everyone said, that's what everyone believed. You should leave, she said finally. I blinked. What? Her expression didn't change, but her voice. There was something different in it, something quieter. You were not seen, she continued. If you go now, you will remain alive. I stared at her, trying to understand. Why? I asked before I could stop myself, a dangerous question, a stupid question, but it slipped out anyway. And for the first time, something in her eyes shifted, not much, just a flicker, gone almost instantly, but I saw it. I do not repeat myself, she said. The temperature dropped another degree. A warning. I swallowed hard, turned slowly, and walked toward the door. Every step felt unreal, like I was walking out of something I didn't fully understand, like I was leaving behind a moment that shouldn't have happened. I reached the threshold, paused. I don't know why I did it. Maybe curiosity, maybe instinct, maybe something deeper, but I looked back, and that's when I saw it. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at her own hands, and they were trembling. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that, because once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. The silent queen, the being that entire civilizations feared, the one who had never been seen showing emotion, hesitation, weakness. Her hands had been shaking, and no one else knew. Days passed, then a week. I kept my head down, did my work, said nothing. Because in a place like that, knowing something you shouldn't know was just as dangerous as doing something you shouldn't do, but it didn't matter. Because she remembered me, I realized at the moment the guards came. They didn't speak, they didn't explain, they just escorted me through corridors I had never seen before, deeper, higher, closer to the center of everything, closer to her. I didn't resist, there was no point, and part of me needed to know why. They brought me to the same door, the same impossible black. This time it opened before I could touch it. I stepped inside, she was there. Exactly where I had seen her before, but this time she turned before I spoke. Her gaze locked onto mine immediately. You returned. I was brought, I said, a pause, then softly. Yes. Silence stretched between us. But it felt different now, less suffocating, still heavy, still dangerous, but not empty. Why am I here? I asked. She studied me, longer than before, like she was searching for something. I wish to confirm something, she said. My pulse quickened. What? Another pause, then she stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until the distance between us felt too small, too intimate. You were not afraid, she said. I almost laughed. I was terrified. No, she replied. You remained. I hesitated. That's not the same thing. Her head tilted slightly, a small, almost human gesture. Explain. I took a breath, careful, measured. Fear doesn't always make you run, I said. Sometimes it just makes you stay still. Her eyes didn't leave mine, and again. That flicker, stronger this time, something breaking through the surface. Interesting, she murmured. Then she did something that made my chest tighten. She reached out, slowly. Carefully, like she wasn't sure what would happen, like she was the one afraid now. Her hand stopped just inches from mine, hovering, not touching, not yet. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't dare break whatever this moment was. Her fingers trembled, just like before, and then she pulled back, sharp, controlled, like she'd almost made a mistake. Leave, she said suddenly, her voice colder now, stronger, like she was rebuilding something that had nearly collapsed. I didn't argue, didn't question. I turned and walked out again, but this time I understood something I hadn't before. She wasn't just feared, she was alone. They started watching me after that, not openly, not directly. But I could feel it, the way conversations stopped when I entered a room, the way guards lingered just a second too long, the way the other humans avoided me completely. Word had spread, not the truth. But something close enough to make people nervous, and in a place like that, nervous was dangerous. Then came the summons again. This time it wasn't quiet, this time it wasn't hidden. The guards didn't escort me, they surrounded me. Weapons visible, eyes locked forward, like they were preparing for something or someone. The throne chamber. I hadn't been back there since the day I arrived. It felt smaller now, not because it had changed, but because I had. She was already there, seated on the throne this time, the silent queen, and the entire room was on edge. Something was wrong. I could feel it, see it in the way the generals stood, in the tension in the air, in the silence that wasn't just fear anymore. It was anticipation, danger. You have been summoned, one of the generals said. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because her gaze was already on me, and this time it wasn't empty. Come forward, she said. I stepped closer, slowly. Every eye in the room followed me, every breath held, every heartbeat loud. I stopped at the base of the throne, looked up at her, and for a moment it felt like we were alone again, like everything else had faded away. You entered my chamber, she said. A murmur rippled through the hall, low, shocked, dangerous. I felt the shift instantly. This wasn't supposed to be known, this wasn't supposed to be said. Yes, I answered. Silence. Then you lived. Not a question. A statement he shouldn't have, one of the generals snapped. The room tightened, energy building, unstable. Her gaze didn't leave mine. Why? She asked. The question hit me harder than anything else, because she wasn't asking them. She was asking me, and suddenly. Everything depended on my answer. I swallowed, then spoke, because you let me. A pause, then. The world changed, her expression cracked, not fully, not openly, but enough for me to see it. For everyone to see it, and that's when it happened, the moment that changed everything. Her hand clenched against the arm of the throne, her breath hitched. Just slightly, and then. She broke, not violently, not dramatically, but quietly. Her shoulders dropped, her gaze lowered, and for the first time in the history of that empire, the silent queen looked vulnerable. A tear formed in her eye, clear, shimmering, impossible, and when it fell, the entire chamber erupted. Guards moved. Weapons raised, voices shouting. Chaos because something sacred had just shattered, something that wasn't supposed to exist, and in the middle of it, she stood alone, exposed, and in danger. I didn't think, didn't plan, didn't hesitate. I stepped forward between her and them. Stop, I shouted. The room froze, not because of me, but because of what I had just done. I had placed myself between the most powerful being in the empire and her own people. Madness, suicide, or something else. Her hand moved, fast, grabbing my arm, cold, shaking. Don't, she whispered, not to them, to me, but it was too late because they had already decided. She is unstable, one of the generals declared. The queen must be contained. Contained, the word echoed like a death sentence, not for me, for her, and suddenly, I understood this wasn't just about fear. This was about control. They didn't fear her because she was silent. They feared what would happen if she was. Stand down, she said. Her voice was back, cold, commanding, but it wasn't enough, not this time. They hesitated, just long enough to show the truth. They were no longer certain. And that uncertainty was deadly. The first weapon fired, a flash of energy, heading straight for her. I moved without thinking, did the only thing I could. I stepped into its path. Pain exploded through my chest, white, blinding, endless. I collapsed. The world tilting, sound fading, but through it all, I saw her expression, the